Live in Western Oregon, this is NBC 16 News at 5:30.
Newly released state budget numbers show how Oregon has taken a huge financial hit from the coronavirus. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Jacqueline Mazer. State economists project the state budget to fall short by $2.7 billion for the rest of this biennium. That means state agencies are bracing for a possible blow to their budgets, impacting everything from law enforcement to education. Some public school districts are looking at potential furloughs and less school time.
And to perhaps have to scramble again to figure out how are we going to provide opportunities for students to pass their classes, to catch up on assignments, and what's going to be taken out of the list of assignments and learning if we're put in a position where we have to cut some days.
However, there is still work being done to try and maintain state agencies and fill the gap. Oregon has $1.6 billion reserve funds and some excess cash. Governor Kate Brown is also calling on Congress and the president to provide more assistance. And happening tonight, the 4J School Board will meet as the district faces major budget shortfall because of cuts at the state level. Dane Wormlinger joins us live in the studio with a look at what the district is bracing for. Dane, nice to see you on NBC 16.
Yeah, Jacqueline, the Eugene 4J School District is facing about $17 million in lost funding. And before the pandemic, they were banking on a $13 million boost in funding from the Student Success Act. 4J told us their goal is to keep staffing and class sizes at current levels, but there are questions about what could happen to Corridor Elementary and North Eugene High School. 4J's original plans were to move students to North Eugene High School and to also build a new North Eugene High School building. Any changes to that plan could come up in tonight's meeting, and we'll have the latest tonight at 11. And as for other districts here in our area, the Bethel School District also announced furlough days this week as they're looking at more than $6 million in overall budget cuts. The district says all staff will be furloughed 1 day a week through June, starting this week. This means a 4-day school week for all students. Those furloughs are expected to save $1 million, helping protect school days and staff positions. The board will meet again on June 8th. And the Springfield Public School District is also using furloughs to make up for lost funding. Starting this Friday, the district will be on a 4-day school week without any classes on Fridays. Superintendent Todd Hamilton says the district was initially looking at a loss of more than $11 million. They've been able to make $3 million in cost savings and got about $2.5 million in federal stimulus money. Before all this started, they were expecting about $8 million in new funding from the Student Success Act. The next school board meeting there is on June 8th. And on the coast, some good news for the Coquille School District. School leaders there expected a $3 billion shortfall, and it came in at $2.7 billion. The school superintendent sees this as the glass being half full.
So we're glad that it's not at the worst scenario. We're hopeful that with this current situation, when the legislature reconvenes, that they'll be able to use some of the rainy day funds and the school stability funds to fill the hole.
Sweeney says he doesn't want to cut staff or calendar days, but that's really the only option if it comes down to it. Another reduction in the budget will come from the Student Success Act. Regardless, the Coquille School District already made purchases for its new Winter Lakes High School for the Career and Technical Education Center.
We're having to scramble and figure out how to make all of that happen. We entered into some contracts, we've entered into some purchases and things like that. Some of the contracts we were able to reduce the scope of work.
He adds on January 31st, they decided to freeze the budgets to get ahead of the game and have a little cushion in case this were to happen. Of course, this is only the first look with much more to come. Sweeney says in 5 to 6 weeks, they'll have a true picture of what the funding will be like next year. Jacqueline?
All right. Thank you so much, Dane. Well, moving on to the coronavirus, contact tracing and testing are two key factors in reopening the economy, according to Senator Jeff Merkley. The HEROES Act, currently in the Senate, has allocated $75 billion for tracing and testing of coronavirus. The recently introduced Coronavirus Containment Core Act looks to create a national tracing program. We spoke with Senator Merkley about the central pieces of the legislation.
Senator Elizabeth Warren and I have put forward a bill to fund 100,000 tracers to go out and basically follow up on every time we have a positive identification of disease. who was that person in contact, and how can we really improve our understanding of the disease and track down folks who may have been exposed and make sure that they are in a quarantine.
The bill would also protect the privacy of Americans to make sure the data isn't misused. They're calling for the legislation to be included in the next coronavirus relief package. Now, to recap, there are now more than 3,800 cases in Oregon and 144 deaths. Multnomah, Washington, and Marion counties have the most cases statewide. There are 2,500 cases there, but only about 1,600 are active cases. In our region, Benton County has 55 cases. Lynn County has 109 cases. Here in Lane County, we remain at 66 cases, including one presumptive case. Deschutes County added 9 cases and now has the most in our region with 116. Douglas County says 23 of their 25 total cases have now recovered. Coos County has 30 cases, all considered active right now. Well, now to the latest results from several races in Oregon's primary election. 46% of registered Oregon voters returned a ballot, according to the Secretary of State's office. That is more than 1.3 million. So let's break up the results of some key races and measures. Lucy Vinnis is re-elected for Eugene mayor. Vinnis, who is the incumbent, was up against 7 other candidates. In this race, if a candidate receives 50% of the vote, they win outright. With over 2/3 of the vote, Vinnis will not face a runoff in November. Vinnis says she's ready to hit the ground running.
You know, we have to get people back to work. That's the first piece, and that means that businesses have to open. All workplaces have to gradually open. That's going to be the key to everything else.
As for the city of Eugene seeing cuts due to the pandemic, Mayor Vinnis says right now they are tabling some planned projects and expansions to save money. Mayor Vinnis also says finding solutions for the unhoused community is a priority for her. She says this pandemic has highlighted the need for better resources. The race for mayor in the city of Springfield was also on the ballot. The race for mayor in Springfield is Christine Lundberg. She's the winner with 57% over Mike Eister. Mayor Lundberg says results show the city feels her leadership is going in the right direction, but she knows there's a lot of work ahead as she works to open the city up again.
It isn't a situation where anyone, whether it's a business in the community or whether it's the city, that we're going to bounce right back. It will be a process.
She says the city needs to have patience going forward, and she's focused on getting people back outside safely. Mayor Lundberg also says economic development, jobs, and public housing will continue to be a priority. Lundberg has served in that position since 2010. Despite concerns of how the pandemic would affect voting, a $121 million bond to fund for improvements at Lane Community College has passed. NBC 16's Alex Hassenstab spoke with the college president about the voting results and how the money will be used.
The votes are in, and Lane Community College's $121 million bond measure passed with nearly 58% voting in favor. When board members drafted the measure in 2019, they had no idea the county would be voting in the middle of a pandemic.
I'm so aware of the times that we're in right now. I'm extremely appreciative to the voters.
The bond increases yearly property taxes by about $35 for the median homeowner in Lane County. LCC President Margaret Hamilton says despite worries that financial uncertainty during the pandemic would cause the measure to fail, the voters chose to invest in the future.
We're going to be there whether or not the vote passed or not to help retrain Lane County. This is just going to help us do it better, faster, more efficient.
The money is going to be used for safety and security in the campus buildings.
To make sure that those buildings are earthquake safe, and that costs millions of dollars per building.
This also includes locking doors and security cameras. And Hamilton says one point driven home by the pandemic is the need to invest in technology.
Now we're sure we know what we need to do with cybersecurity. And with all of our infrastructure for technology.
Hamilton says a lion's share of the money will be used to expand healthcare and manufacturing programs.
In this county, they value education and training. That's the message it sent to me. And I like to say it puts pressure on us because we got to deliver.
While it's uncertain when students will be on campus, construction crews will be there next year. I'm Alex Hassenstab reporting.
On the coast, the city of North Bend is now dealing with the results of 2 public safety measures which were approved by voters. The city will now be required to let voters decide whether a fee can be added or increased. The public safety fee in North Bend will have to be reduced from $30 to $15. The co-chair of the group that started the ballot measure says they're pleased with the results, which are sending a clear message.
Yes, our vote counted. We meant what we said. in the election of November 18, and we do understand the issues, contrary to statements that some city councilors made.
He says public safety is important, and that's why the city needs to make it a first priority when making their new budget. City Manager Terrence O'Connor declined to go on camera, but says the city will be scheduling a city council meeting to work on preparing a new plan of action. The ballot measure to upgrade the 911 radio system in Coos County was approved. Public service agencies told us the system is outdated and failing, sometimes leaving responders to use their cell phones. Right now, the measure has about 76% support. And in Douglas County, a bond to fund the renovation of Roseburg school facilities is still too close to call. Money from that bond would go to safety improvements and district-wide upgrades. Right now, results show voters said no, with 52% of the vote. For a full recap of the Oregon primary and to read more about the winners, make sure to visit our website, NBC16.com. Well, coming up on your only local news at 5:30, classes may have went online, but rent is still a headache. How one college student is dealing with financial struggles.
Tonight, exciting findings from two major research labs in the hunt for coronavirus vaccines and treatments. Also a fascinating look inside Macy's. Big changes coming from the makeup counter to the dressing room when we see you back here tonight.